Let's start with, well, let me do this. As you know, 2 county commission seats are up for grabs, Districts 2 and 4. Today's group is running in District 2. The Republican primary culminates August 26th. Absentee ballots go out July 22. There will be a general election. Alexandra Coe is running with no party affiliation. There are 2 write-ins, and they will face the winner of the Republican primary between Paul Caragiolo and Shannon Snyder, who coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, are currently on the city commission. All right, so can somebody help me out here? Who's here? Paul Caragiolo, please come to stage. Alexandra? Steve McAllister? Shannon Snyder? And Pete Thiessen. While they're coming up, I hope everybody's here. We'll open the panel up with what I call the lightning round, some quick questions that deserve the shortest possible answers. I'll then ask each candidate a few other questions germane to the election. We'll pose specific questions depending on the circumstances of the election. After the Q&A, each candidate gets a 1-minute closing. Got that, candidates? 1-minute closing. And we'll take questions from members starting at or before 1 p.m. And the intent is to finish by 1:15. I've got a streak intact. We have finished on time every time I've done this. So, are we ready? Personal devices put away. All right, here we go. We'll start. Let's go down the line. My first job. Your first job was. First job, Paul.
A punching bag for my older brothers.
Yep. All right. Alex.
I was other than babysitting, my first official job was I was the youngest Avon lady. I was 15 years old and I had my own Avon line.
Nice. Steve. First job.
I mowed lawns at Orange Acres Mobile Home Park on Clark and 1475.
All right, Shannon.
Mowed grass when I was 12 years old, and my first official job was actually pouring concrete for my father's construction company.
Nice. Pete.
I was an agricultural worker.
All right, thanks. All right. Argentina or Germany? Argentina or Germany?
I'm not answering any yes or no questions, so I'll give a shot at this one. USA, no. I'm going to say Argentina.
All right, Alex?
I'll say Argentina too.
Steve?
Well, I'm part German, but I like the Argentinian player, so I'll go with Argentina.
All right, Shannon? Germany? Pete?
I don't follow sports unless I personally know one of the players.
All right. Some of you are wondering why we had Pete here today.
Does he play for Argentina or Germany?
Thank you, Pete. All right, we'll just keep going in this direction. Running for county commission is like. Running for county commission is like. Yes, Paul.
It's a lot of fun. It's great. Great experience.
All right. Alex, it's like what?
Running for county commissioner is like waking up in the morning to a full body massage and breakfast in bed.
Let me remind everybody who I'm sorry. I forgot to put you all under oath. So somebody, an officer of the court, please come up, please. All right, running for county commission is like what, Steve?
It's like staging a Broadway production with a ukulele and a pair of tap shoes.
Very good. All right. Shannon, running for county commission is like
Like a call to the mission field.
All right, Pete?
I find it a lot like running for city commission,
That's a good answer.
except it's bigger.
All right. Now we have a specific question for Paul and Shannon. Starting with Paul, being on the Sarasota City Commission is like.
What was your answer, Steve? It's a pleasure to serve.
Shannon, what's it like?
Like herding cats.
Okay. All right, now, Alexandra, and I made a unilateral decision to call everybody by their first name. So that's okay. Alexandra, why are you running with no party affiliation?
Well, I decided to run no party affiliation, even though I've been the co-chair of the Libertarian Party in Sarasota for the last 2 years, because I believe that it's time to take politics out of local government and to start elect people on their virtue and not on their political affiliation.
Okay, thank you. Steve, why are you running as a write-in?
Originally, I wanted to do no party affiliation because for a similar reason as my neighbor here, because I think that we should take parties out of it. It's a serious business, and I don't think we need allegiance to that. As far as the write-in thing, it fit my budget a little bit more. And also, I think that we need to have a more participatory democracy. And so I'm calling people to go a little further than just writing in a check. If you believe in what I say, what I stand for, with a very unique point of view that I can bring to our county commission, then I want you to work a little harder for it and actually write that in and be conscious of what you're doing. So I'm going to a higher stage of participation.
All right, Pete, why did you run as a write-in?
I've been a Republican for 45 years. I am still a Republican. However, the ballot position is for sale for cash, or in another way, it's for sale for cash. If you can hire enough canvassers to gather 3,000 signatures, or if you happen to know some that'll work for free, then you can get on well, actually, it's a petition and it has 7 bits of information that you have to explain why you need that. So I didn't get 3,000.
All right. Both for Steve and Pete, did any persons, or organizations urge you to run as a write-in in order to close the primary to Republicans? Just yes or no?
No.
Pete, yes or no, please?
No.
All right, thank you. Paul and Shannon, you're running in the GOP primary. What Republican principles would guide your decisions in office? We'll start with Shannon now.
Low taxes. I've never voted to raise the millage rate. I've never voted to raise the business fee while I was sitting as a city commissioner.
All right, thank you. Paul?
I also believe in limited taxes, and I have a focus on small business simply because I believe that the story about business in this community is the story of business in most places, and that's the story of small business. As a small business person, I would endeavor to look for ways to help the small business owners through the system.
All right, thank you. So Paul, you decided early in the process to leave the city commission and run for county commission. Why did you make that decision?
I enjoy serving, and the opportunity came about to represent the folks of the entire county, and I was very interested in the opportunity.
Okay, thanks. Shannon, you decided to run relatively late in the process against a fellow city commissioner. Why did you make that decision?
I made that decision when I saw the ethics officer being basically drug out of the building and fired, and I realized that somebody needed to stand up and start having some real discussions about what's going on.
All right, thank you. So speaking as city commissioners, Paul and Shannon, and I'll ask Paul first, do you think the Sarasota 2050 plan is good or bad for cities and urban areas?
I think it can be good. I think it can be worked in a way to integrate it with municipalities' own urban plans. I don't think it's functioning as desired the way it stands right now. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can ask the father of new urbanism himself. And I think he'll tell you that it's actually contributing to urban sprawl, suburban sprawl, excuse me. And I think that part of the issue is really looking at, with the 4 municipalities, how the plans are going to coincide with the county's growth plan. They're all interconnected. Looking at things regionally is going to make more sense.
All right, Paul? I'm sorry, Shannon, same question, please.
Yeah, it's going to be open sprawl, and basically it's going to cost the city slow and steady money as far as coming up with the services to basically provide. The city of Sarasota has grown by 3,000 residents in the last 30 years, and I think if anybody looks at the traffic downtown, that growth in traffic is not from the city of Sarasota's growth, it's come from the region. And as we have more and more uncontrolled growth, The cities are going to pay the price for it, and they'll pay for the price of it in their tax base.
All right, thanks. We'll start with Shannon and then to Paul. As I mentioned, as everybody knows, you're a city commissioner, but would you take a different approach to 2050 if you're elected to the county commission than what you've articulated as a city commissioner?
No.
No? Paul?
No, I don't think you have to. I think that that's all part of looking at things in a regional capacity, is that I think they're not mutually exclusive. They don't have to compete with each other. We're getting to the point where it's hard to sort of figure out very easily where the city begins and where the city ends. I think you'll find that there are all kinds of folks in the community who are not aware of whether they live in the city or not, so that would tell you that there are some pretty blurred lines, and I think that looking at things holistically is the way to operate.
All right, thank you. All right, this is for everybody. Kind of a two-part question. What additional steps, if any, should county government take in response to homelessness? Would you specifically address whether you support or oppose a come-as-you-are shelter? All right, so what do you think? What steps, if any, should county government take in response to homelessness? Well, additional steps, and specifically address whether you support or oppose a come-as-you-are shelter. Let's start with Alexandra.
I do not oppose a come-as-you-are shelter necessarily, but I oppose spending a lot of money on it. I think that there's facilities that we already have that can be used for that. The homeless issue is something that we definitely need to address. It's not just a city issue, it's all across the county. As an anthropologist, I understand homelessness is a multidimensional problem that requires multidimensional solutions. And I think we need to open up the dialogue, because we are not talking about what the real issues are with homelessness currently.
All right, thank you. Steve?
I think we need to look at things from a more resource-based economics point of view. I think that the human species is quite complex. We are, by our own definition, a melting pot society. And each of us has different requirements for what gives us a life of well-being, of what gives us the ability to build the life that we want. I think that the come-as-you-are shelter is good, is necessary. We should have that kind of catch-all for anyone who falls by the wayside. Nevertheless, we also have resources at our disposal, such as the zombie homes that were talked about in the paper this week, such as the cattle property that people have talked about before, for setting up alternative kinds of housing to get people into situations that work best for them. When we're looking at post-traumatic stress disorder veterans, they don't want to be put in an institution. They don't even want to be in a house. Maybe they'd like to be in a tent. Let's find out what these people need and how to put them in environments where they're going to prosper and flourish. And I think that the government should be basically a way to open up those flows, open up those channels for people to live their highest lives on their terms.
Okay, thank you. Shannon?
Yeah, I think on a county level that we need to start looking at whether we have enough drug and mental health facilities as a diversion program, not just opening more facilities for the state to inundate us. I've spoken about this at length at the commission table. We need to start worrying about whether we have those facilities available for diversion from our court system so they can actually get stabilized and actually get turned back around and become productive life. As far as the come-as-you-are shelter, St. Pete runs a very good facility. I'm having second thoughts about having it just open to anybody that wants to come in and drop off because they're walking through town and need a place. I do think that this facility such as that for law enforcement that are dealing with our quality of life issues to try to do a jail diversion program is completely appropriate. And I think Pinellas County runs a good program, but I think we need to start worrying about our jail diversion program because it's very expensive to add jail space and we cannot arrest our way out of this problem.
All right, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, without going into it, you pretty much just heard the entire plan. That the plan that was just outlined is basically what Dr. Marvin has suggested to us. A lot of folks are getting sort of fixated on the actual idea of the come-as-you-are shelter. However, when you look at the entire plan, what's interesting and sort of a little dangerous about it is every sort of component to this plan is just as important as the next. And you need to adopt the entire, or change the entire way you do business and stop enabling and start engaging. And we do have a model that's very close to us. It is a jail diversion program. It's precisely how it functions. And we need to get down to the business of actually just doing it. However, it's not, there's no surprise it comes with a tremendous amount of political liabilities. These are things that we have to confront, but we should be moving forward.
All right, thank you. Pete?
there is a really amazing groundswell of private interest and volunteerism in this area. Many people of means or people of ability want to help. However, the city is particularly standing in the way of at least one program that I'm familiar with, just plain standing in the way. Won't give them water permit, won't give them sewer permit, won't let them give an electrical permit for over a year. And I mean, this is just, you know, they talk all they want, but until they start actually getting out of the roadblock, I don't think they want to, actually. I really don't. I don't think they want to.
All right, thank you. Let's start, we'll just do a yes or no here. We'll just start with Paul and go down the road. Do you support or oppose the Virgin Diamond proposal for the I-75 University Parkway interchange?
I'm in support of it.
Alex?
I don't think that it's perfect. I think we need to revisit it, but definitely we have to do something, and that seems like a plausible solution.
All right, Steve?
I'm for exploring the possibility, but I would need further input on it before I can say yes or no.
All right, thank you. Shannon?
I support it and I voted for it as an MPO member.
Okay, thank you. Pete, yes or no, please?
They all talked about it. I get yes or no? Okay, I'm going to expand on it a little bit.
Very little bit.
All right. Now, I support University Parkway as an experiment. I think they should use it for a few years before they do Fruitville and Clark.
All right, thank you. All right, this is for Shannon, Paul, and Alex. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that Sarasota County will have to fund improvements to local roads near the proposed interchange. How would you suggest the county do that? Start with Paul, then Alex, and Shannon.
There's no doubt that the money for the infrastructure is getting tight. I can just, I have a meeting in the Minnesota League of Cities where that was discussed precisely. There are some possibilities, whether it's going to the state, perhaps use of paying sales tax. Infrastructure is very, very expensive, but I would say to you that I think that project in particular was important enough that it would take precedent over several other things, perhaps.
All right, Alex?
Well, I think university is an example of where we need to stop and realize that we've made a couple mistakes in how we move forward with development. And part of the reason we have development is we want it to pay for itself. We're not looking to increase our taxes, which is what happens. And Paul just said we have to maybe institute a penny tax, and I think that we have to stop that kind of development. We cannot continue to burden taxpayers with infrastructure after the fact with development.
Okay, thank you. Shannon?
The question is how to pay for it. First, we need to find out which of the main priorities and also team up with our partners in Manatee County. All those roads up in there basically are joint connectors, and it's right on the line between Sarasota and Manatee County. It's going to be probably at least 2 decades for us to try to come in there and straighten out most of what the traffic mess is going to be when that thing opens up and as the development occurs. It's going to take 2 decades. And the question is whether we rob from Peter to pay Paul. There's already development in South County. We've been promising River Road and emergency accesses, so we need to start worrying about the development in Sarasota County and not the development in Manatee County as we move forward. I think that would be my priority in the funding side of it. It's going to come from multiple sources, everything from taxes and road tax, gas tax, 1 cent sales tax, state revenue sharing. It's going to be a whole pot of money that we're going to have to draw from. But it's going to be a very, very slow process, and unfortunately, it's going to be a mess for a lot of years.
All right, same 3 in reverse order. So it would be Shannon, Alex, and Paul. What, if anything, if you had been a county commissioner when the mall permitting was proceeding, what, if anything, would you have done to ensure that infrastructure was in place before the mall opened? Shannon?
Would require the infrastructure to be in place before it was allowed to move forward. That would have been the first thing. You don't build it and try to solve the problem. Solve the problem before you build it. The cart was before the horse.
All right, thanks. Alex?
Well, I have to agree with Shannon on that. mean, I think like Henderson Park and what they've done with Capitol Road, that looks beautiful. The rowing facility looks beautiful. But then again, we should have addressed the traffic issue before we put them on.
All right. Paul?
Well, hindsight's always 20/20, but due diligence can solve a lot of problems, also create a few other ones, but in a project of that magnitude, you're better proceeding with caution.
All right, thank you. Shuffle my notes. Two-part question for the same three. Do you support the county commission's vote to sell its share of Warm Mineral Springs back to Northport? So yeah, let's do it that way. Yes, Paul.
I do. I think that at the end of the day, there's clearly a schism between the two boards of what the vision should be for that facility. And although I might subscribe personally to one particular view, I believe that that's best left to the most local government, who is most directly representative of the population and the citizenry. And I think it's actually a good solution, and that the city of Northport should be the one driving this bus. It's going to affect their citizens more than anyone else, and I think it's a fair and equitable resolution, to be honest.
All right, thank you, Alex.
Well, I think that Warm Mineral Springs is a really vital resource for the people of Northport, but I do not think that the county should relinquish responsibility. There should be a more cooperative network between county and local city governments, and I think Warm Mineral Springs is a pretty good playground to try to see how we might be able to make that work effectively, because it's a very important issue to the people in Northport.
All right, Shannon?
Yeah, I think first of all, we need to recognize that there was a divergent partnership, and basically one group decided to sell out to the other one, and that makes sense. But I think as a compliment to everybody, whether the city or county, is that we have now protected a natural resource that's one of a kind anywhere else in this country, and we preserve that into the future. Now, who manages it and who's in charge of it, that is a different subject. But we need to take a deep breath as a community and not worry about the diverging problems that we had. And actually, there was a solution, and we solved the first problem, is in public ownership, so that at least it's preserved for future generations. As far as dividing between the properties, I think the city of Northport will do a fine job as far as managing it. They have a very good city manager down there. It's just a difference in philosophy and how the partnership, and I think it was time to move on, and I think that was an appropriate decision.
Okay, thanks. I think you've all answered the second part of that question, so we'll move on. And this is for the two current office holders, Paul and Shannon. If you had to pick one decision that you have made as a city commissioner that best exemplifies your decision making